Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. So I'm going to put a major trigger warning right now. This case that I'm going to get into, yes, it is a true crime case. It is going to be extremely graphic and disturbing to some viewers. So if that is not your thing, please exit out of this video, and I will be back with another video soon. So again, another trigger warning, this is going to be talking about mental health and a lot of disturbing content. So again, you're forewarned. So this case takes place just outside Manitoba, Canada, and it actually took place on a bus. So here in Canada, we have Greyhound buses that basically travel from province to province, or even inside provinces. It's a way of transporting if you don't want to take a bus, not a bus, sorry, a train or a plane. It's a longer journey, but it is a little bit on the cheaper side. Granted, it can be very uncomfortable. I have been on a few of those buses. But, it is relatively a safe, means to transport yourself to places. This case honestly shook Canada when it took place, and it took place in 2008. So it was still early 2000s. We were getting kind of up there with talking about mental health, but it was still very new. It wasn't still talked about to the extent that it is today. And why I'm just stipulating that is because this case was extremely mishandled from the get-go, and you guys will see why later on. It honestly, it kind of felt like it was brushed under the rug, and mental health was used as a crutch. And unfortunately, a lot of cases like this, not to this degree, but a lot of cases dealing with mental health is sadly used as a crutch. And mental health is very serious. And, it affects a lot of people. And when a crime is committed with a mental health person dealing with those problems, it tends to be used kind of as a crutch and just like, well, hey, it wasn't your fault. And that's kind of it. We will get into that a little bit later, but right now, let's get into this case. So this case, sorry if you guys see me looking down, I don't have a projector, so my notes are all handwritten. So this case took place on July 30th, 2008. And I honestly remember watching this on the news taking place, and I was honestly really shook. Like, I was just heading into high school when this took place, so I was like 14. So this case, honestly, how it was also broadcasted on the news, you guys will... It honestly changed how things were also broadcast. So Tim McLean was 22 years old when this case took place, and he sadly lost his life. Tim was a carefree spirit. He often spent his summers working at a carnival / they were mini circuses, just exploring and meeting new people, and often couch surfing. So he would hop from friend's place to friend's place and just following this carnival that took place. And he was very outgoing, very easy to talk to, very easy to become friends with. He was just extremely outgoing. He just had that vibe where anybody could approach him and you're instantly friends. He was honestly loved by all. And he was on his way home from Edmonton, Canada, a little bit early. He was supposed to be arriving home in Manitoba 2 weeks later. But the carnival was finishing up and he decided to surprise his family and come home a few weeks early. So he hopped on a bus, which is known as the Greyhound, and here in Canada it is a way of transportation through province to province if you don't want to pay for a plane or train. It is also more frequently used within provinces to go from one end to the next or just from town to town. But they are often used for cross-country kind of travel. It is a less expensive way of traveling, a little bit more uncomfortable, and it is a lot longer. But, for young adults, it's all we can afford, especially in this day and age. So Tim used the last of his summer money that he had put aside from traveling and hopped on the bus. And he often sat at the back of the bus because he was tired. He was up at all hours working at these carnivals as a baker. And he, just wanted to sleep. So he ended up sitting at the back of the bus and just kind of listening to music and chilling. So around 6:45, they stopped. So they've been traveling on and off for a few hours. They would stop every few hours for a break, rest stop, for anybody to use the bathroom, get some food, and then everybody would hop on the bus. Tim didn't often get off on stops because he usually slept through, but he got off the stop and actually sold his computer just to that he was carrying. Sorry. And now this was conflicted stories. I heard that he sold his computer. Then I also heard that this other person that we are going to talk about sold a computer. So somebody sold a computer. I'm not quite sure if it was Tim because he was often traveling. So that was conflicted early on. But honestly, it doesn't really pay too much of mind into the story. I have a feeling from what research that I did, this next person we were going to talk about, I think he was the one that sold his computer, and we'll kind of get more into that. So honestly, I wanted to kind of share both, but from my research is more shown to this other person. So the other person was named Vince Lee, and he was quiet and not odd, but people were they just got this weird vibe from him. So from doing research on this case, and this is why I'm kind of leaning more towards the fact that he was the one who sold his computer, was that he said that he was talking to these figmented people, and the voice in his head told him to sell this computer. And he was at the stop that this Greyhound bus stopped at, and he used that money from what he sold for his computer to hop on this bus. He didn't really have an area of he was traveling. It's just that this voice in his head told him to get on this bus. So he sat at the front of the bus. And this went on for a little bit until they got off roughly around 7:30 to another rest stop. And then Tim didn't get off at this rest stop. He was sleeping on the bus. And for some reason, Vince moved next to Tim. And the bus wasn't fully packed. There was quite a few people on it. But he literally just got up and sat next to Tim. He was just there. And Tim was sleeping. He didn't really, he heard the sound, so he looked over and then he went back to sleep. He didn't say anything rude. It wasn't like, oh, dude, why are you sitting next to me type of thing. He was just like, okay, cool, whatever. And went back to sleep. So around 8 p.m., this bus was 30 kilometers outside of Manitoba. So they were in Portage, on the border of Manitoba. And all of a sudden, Vince pulled out this large knife and started stabbing Tim, who was asleep, in the chest and neck. And of course, Tim, I think, briefly woke up, but at this point, I think, unfortunately, he had already passed. Just from the blood loss that comes quickly from a stab wound in the chest or neck. Quickly, the bus driver pulled over on the side of the road and, got passengers off the bus. Two men bravely tried to save Tim. Even though they knew it was probably too late, they were trying to, save his body. Vince fought them off with the knife, and unfortunately, these two men were able to get off the bus, but not with Tim. Vince locked the bus doors. So around 8:30, the Portage RCMP, so the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, got a phone call that this was going down, that this person was going wild on the bus. Hold that thought. During this time that these people were on the phone with the police, Vince beheaded Tim and literally picked up his head and was walking back and forth on the bus, showing these people on the side of the road. Now, these people were freaking out, screaming, some were vomiting, and they were like, get your asses here, police, right? Type of thing. They didn't show up till 9 p.m. Okay? So first of all, they didn't really, haul ass to this situation. They didn't, I don't know if they thought it was a prank call or whatever. They arrived on scene and were literally just standing around. Okay, they had their weapons pointed at the bus. And basically, they did nothing. They thought it would be too risky to go into the bus because they thought Tim was still alive. And that would put him at risk. Vince was still on the bus walking around with the beheaded head of Tim. And the police thought that Tim was still alive. This was at 9 p.m. So Vince was just screaming and then went back to Tim's body and began eating his flesh. And the police did nothing. Vince would occasionally hold up a piece of flesh and then literally stand by the windows and eat it. Yet the police still thought that Tim was alive. The police thought Tim was alive and that it was too risky to go in and just handle the situation. So they stood around the bus until 1:30 a.m. when Vince decided, I hate to say these words, he got full and bored with the body, and decided to try to escape the bus. So he broke a bus window and tried to escape. The police finally made a move and decided to taser him, which again, they didn't take a, this was, actually really handled safely in this situation with taking Vince down. They didn't, fatally wound or shoot him. They, tasered him and were able to arrest him and stick him in a police van. Then they went on to the bus and declared Tim dead. You know, it just baffled my mind. Unfortunately, the news crews arrived almost faster than the police. I don't know how they got word of it. I mean, maybe people were, tweeting and whatnot, or I don't even know if tweeting was around back then, but it got out to the media, and almost the media was faster than the police. I think they, almost arrived, 2 to 3 minutes earlier than the police. And they were shooting this live, okay? And thousands of people, in Canada and around the world saw the images of Vince walking around with Tim's head. It wasn't blurred out or anything. They couldn't, I guess, the producers or whatever, because they were showing it live, couldn't blur out it fast enough. So people got a view of this. And, we were literally on the edge of our seats, just watching all of this take down, what the hell is going on? Okay? So, from 9 p.m. when they arrived on scene to 1:30 a.m., that is a big time gap, okay? That is a few hours. They literally did nothing. Nothing. They didn't try to de-escalate the situation as much as they should have. I mean, they used the blowhorn, and then Vince got upset, so they're kind of like, they didn't really try hard enough, I think, to de-escalate the situation. And for them to half-ass it and say, well, we didn't want harm to come to, Tim, is absolutely outrageous and disgusting. Okay? Tim's family couldn't bury their son, and family member because I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use it. They couldn't bury him whole. There were pieces of him missing, that Vince ate. And, his body was mutilated, basically on live TV. And the police stood around and basically did nothing. Okay, if that is not enough to make your skin boil, we are going to flash forward to 2009. March 5th, 2009 was when the case went to trial. And Vince was declared not criminally responsible due to mental health issues of, there was a whole list of things that took place that he was, listed as wrong. Schizophrenia was one of them, major, because he was hearing the voices and, the voices told him to do it. So he was sentenced to a mental health facility, a top-level facility, where, people were kind of outraged. When I say kind of, because, again, this was a lot of, newer mental health. This was a pivotal change, of where people were like, holy shit. They were okay with him being locked up because they thought he couldn't get out. Not to be saying that, that was okay. He had no responsibility that he was basically given. They were just saying, he'll go to this facility and, you'll eventually be able to get out one day. Okay? And you're probably thinking, Jess, okay, he's probably still there. He is not. Fast forward to May 8th, 2015. Okay. So he was placed in this facility in 2009. So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 6 years later, he was released and given a new name. He was released, given a new name, and no protocols that he needed to follow. Apparently, his mental health was cured. He no longer has to be on medication. He is fine. Like, he doesn't have to do check-ins. They recommended that he stays on medication, but, he has stated in the one and only interview that he did that, he's a changed person, and, he really doesn't feel like he needs to be on medication. And that was fine. He is literally walking our streets free with no responsibility to his name, and he has a new name. He is free, and I can't state that enough. He is free after murdering a 22-year-old, decapitating him, mutilating his body, and eating him. This case honestly royally pisses me off because there was no accountability held whatsoever. The police, they were just like, whatever. And our court system was just like, he heard voices, we'll just let him be free. Basically, in a few years. He has no responsibility. He murdered somebody out of the blue, okay? And granted, yes, I am not making fun of mental health. Mental health is very seriously a thing that should be taken seriously. However, those with mental health should be held accountable for those actions in some capacity, whether it is behind bars or stayed in a facility forever. To be able to walk free with a new name and no check-ins needed, nothing. Nothing. Zip, zilch, nothing. It pisses me off. Okay? I can't imagine being Tim's family. I would be utterly disgusted. And they are. They are so extremely pissed off. I would be too, from how the news outlets handled this case, showing shit live, not blowing anything out, how the police handled the situation, how the court system handled the situation, and how the government was just like, hey, you did this whole horrible thing, we're just gonna give you a new name and honky doodle, you can go live your life and live off of government benefits because you can't work. That's a thing. He is living off government benefits. Tim's father has spoken out on this, and every time I listen to an interview, it just breaks my heart. All their family wants is for some accountability to be held. Now, unfortunately, this case can never be retried. That is right. This case can never be retried. Because, for one, it is a closed case, and two, Vince was deemed criminally not responsible. So that means he can never be retried because he is not stable enough to be retried. Yet he is walking free, living off government benefits, with a new name. I am honestly so lost for words with this case. You know, a lot of people talk about how, the states or other countries' um, system of, courts and all that stuff and police are all messed up. Our justice system here in Canada is not the greatest. I mean, it is better than some places, but honestly, cases like this, and a lot of cases that I haven't covered a lot of cases, but the few cases that I have covered and have been doing research into, it just honestly blows my mind what people can get away with and not have any accountability. Like, Tim lost his life for what? Honestly, for what? Vince was never properly monitored before this situation. He was on and off medication, and, it was never followed up. Because granted, mental health was not taken seriously back then. I mean, now it kind of is, but still isn't, but it is better than what it was back then. And, they kind of just let it slide a lot of times. And, Tim was 22. He did nothing wrong. He was sleeping on a bus. And, this man was told by the voices in his head to kill, behead, and eat this person. Tim was, I can't. It honestly really bothers me that the police didn't go in sooner to, I'm pretty sure Tim was gone the first few stabs, maybe even the first stab. But to have your body mutilated in that way, well, people just stand around. And I mean, I'm not even saying, those people that were on the bus, they were helpless. They couldn't do anything, right? They called in and said, hey, shit's going down. The police fucking did nothing. They just stood around for hours until Vince decided, hey, I'm full, I'm leaving this bus. I hate to sound so casual about it, but that's basically how the case was handled. The police did not give a shit. They stood by and watched as this all happened. And it just, it just makes my blood boil. It just, this is just one of the cases where it's no accountability was held whatsoever. And it's just the government is paying this man who did these horrible things because he's not fit to have a job. And they gave him a new name. They basically patted him on the back for this behavior, Again, no accountability. Whatsoever. None. I mean, Anyways, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, this case was brutal. And, yeah, anyways, guys, leave me your thoughts in the comments. Remember, be respectful. If, don't leave them graphic. I know I've spoken graphic things in here. But just be mindful of how, you kind of just say things in the comments. But yeah, just tell me how you feel about this case and, if you agree with how it was handled or disagreed or whatsoever. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there, and I will be back soon with a new video. Anyways, guys, stay safe, and remember, never give up, always keep fighting, you're enough, and you're very much loved. Until the next video, guys, I'll see ya.